At Heartland, the sun still rises over the fields, horses move through familiar paths, and life appears steady. But beneath the calm, something is shifting. Not with explosions or dramatic confrontations, but in the silences between words, in the weight of responsibility, in the exhaustion that no one speaks aloud. Season 20 doesn't announce itself with chaos. It arrives quietly, like a storm gathering strength beneath still skies. And the most dangerous storms are the ones you cannot see coming. The ranch wakes as it always has, with the gentle light spilling across fences and pastures, with the soft rhythm of horses stirring and the hum of morning chores. On the surface, nothing has changed. Life flows with the same patterns, the same routines, the same familiar sounds. Yet the air feels heavier now. There is a subtle tension, an almost imperceptible pressure that sits over every conversation, every glance, every movement. The calm of Heartland no longer guarantees peace. Strength, once a shield, now carries a weight that seems almost unbearable. The family has survived storms before, but this season asks a question that has never been asked so plainly. What happens when the very strength that has kept them going begins to exhaust them from the inside out? Amy moves through her mornings with the same precision and care, but there is a quiet weariness in her eyes, a restraint in her movements. She has learned to function through pain rather than heal from it, to mask the burden of loss with competence and calm. Yet beneath her composed exterior lies a tension that threatens to fracture at the smallest provocation. Love, attachment, and trust no longer come easily. They are risks she cannot afford, yet cannot entirely ignore. The quietness of her life feels deliberate, almost protective, but the audience senses the cost. Her restraint is no longer simply wisdom, it is isolation. Jack, ever the observer, notices the subtle changes. He sees the careful distance Amy maintains, the way she measures every word, every smile, every pause. He recognizes the armor she has built around herself, the defense that shields her from disappointment, from pain, from connection. Yet he knows that armor is also heavy, and carrying it can strain the spirit in ways that strength alone cannot repair. Jack carries his own burden too. The weight of memory, the knowledge of past losses, the understanding that wisdom sometimes arrives in silence rather than action. He watches, listens, waits. Every pause between words, every hesitation in Amy's expression speaks volumes. Lou, tasked with leadership and responsibility, feels a different kind of pressure. She organizes, manages, and plans, but she cannot plan for emotional truth. Her strength has always been her shield, but now it isolates her. Decisions weigh heavier than ever because every choice touches someone she cares for. Her confidence is practiced, her smile deliberate, and her inner doubts grow quietly, imperceptibly, until they press against her like invisible hands. The ranch itself mirrors the emotional state of its inhabitants. Familiar routines now carry echoes of memory, of past losses, of decisions made under duress. Chores feel heavier, conversations carry unsaid words. The land seems to watch, to remember, to echo the subtle pressure each person bears. Nothing dramatic happens, no storms tear across the fields, no tragedies crash into the lives of those who have survived so much. Yet the tension is palpable. It is built from restraint, from silence, from the knowledge that a single honest word, a single moment of vulnerability, could unravel the careful balance they maintain. Small moments become charged. A glance held too long, a pause that lingers, a careful word chosen instead of the one that might truly be felt. Every character carries something unspoken, and the audience feels the weight. For Amy, the tension is internal, almost unbearable. She measures every emotional impulse, every instinct to connect or risk attachment. The cost of openness has been learned in years of loss, and the fear of repeating that pain constrains her. Yet the audience senses a quiet rebellion in her restraint, a pressure building from within that threatens to break free. Jack's presence is grounding, but also a reminder of time, of mortality, of the fact that strength alone does not erase pain. Lou's internal conflict sharpens in subtle ways. Her belief that control and careful management can prevent hurt is quietly challenged by the unpredictability of emotion. She navigates moments where saying nothing might protect someone, but could just as easily erode trust. Every decision carries weight, and the stakes are not in life or death, but in honesty, attachment, and the fragile threads that hold the family together. Season 20 emphasizes that drama does not need spectacle. It can live in silences, in restraint, in the quiet pressure of endurance. The suspense is woven from the accumulation of restraint, from the recognition that emotional survival has a limit, and that limit is approaching. Strength, endurance, and careful living have served the Heartland family well, but even these virtues are not infinite. They must be measured against the cost of isolation, the weight of unspoken truth, and the inevitability of vulnerability. As the morning light stretches across the ranch, the audience senses that the calm is fragile. Each character, though outwardly composed, is approaching a threshold where restraint can no longer protect them. The storm is quiet, but it is present. It has begun to shape every conversation, every glance, every careful choice. And while nothing has yet broken, the anticipation is unbearable. The knowledge that emotional reckoning is coming, and that when it arrives, there is no turning back. Season 20 is not about explosions or sudden conflict. It is about the quiet storm of endurance, restraint, and the invisible weight of survival pressing down until the first cracks appear. The audience feels it in every silent moment, every measured step, every unspoken thought. Amy, Jack, Lou, and the entire ranch carry this pressure. And with each passing day, the question grows louder, even if it is never said. How long can they endure before the calm finally shatters? As the days unfold at Heartland, the quiet tension that began to gather in the first light of morning deepens. The ranch hums with routine, yet routine no longer offers comfort. It is a reminder of what is carried beneath the surface. Amy moves among the animals, tending to them with careful precision, but each action feels heavier than it once did. Strength that was once empowering now presses upon her like a constant weight. The horses sense her restraint, her unspoken fatigue, and they move more slowly beside her, as if attuned to the invisible pressure she carries. Every chore, every task becomes a marker of endurance, a testament to her ability to keep going when the heart wants to rest. Yet endurance alone cannot shield her from the cost of years spent guarding against vulnerability. Amy notices how easily she has begun to measure her emotions, how instinctive her hesitations have become. Her careful smiles are shields, her patience calculated. Moments of connection that once felt natural are now weighed and measured. A glance from Jack, steady and silent, lingers longer than it should, and for the first time in a long while, she wonders if she is seen, truly seen, beneath the armor she has built. That thought brings both a flicker of hope and a wave of fear. She has survived so much by being cautious, by controlling what she can, by never letting herself need anyone too deeply. But the quiet awareness that someone notices, someone who has always noticed, stirs something she cannot name. Jack himself carries a different kind of weight. His endurance is not simply physical or practical, but emotional, layered by decades of observing the ebb and flow of family, loss, and survival. He has seen patterns repeat, loved ones retreat into themselves, and resilience transform into isolation. His quiet presence is deliberate. He does not speak to force clarity. He speaks to mark the significance of what is unspoken. He allows silence to stretch, understanding that truth often arrives slowly, layer by layer, until it can no longer be contained. Lou's struggle grows in parallel, though it is less visible, less acknowledged. She balances leadership with familial loyalty, strategy with emotional awareness, and her own internal needs are quietly eclipsed by the responsibilities she cannot set down. Every decision she makes carries consequences she cannot predict, yet her instinct is to carry on, to control, to ensure the stability of the ranch and the people who depend on her. The pressure builds imperceptibly, and she begins to notice cracks in her practiced confidence. Doubt creeps into the pauses between actions, in the brief hesitations before words are spoken, in the unspoken questions she does not allow herself to ask. The ranch itself mirrors these internal pressures. The familiar fields, barns, and fences hold the memory of decades, of past losses and triumphs. They are steady, but not indifferent. Every footstep across the pasture, every soft snort of a horse, carries echoes of the choices made here before. The environment reflects the tension of its inhabitants. It witnesses, it amplifies, it holds the quiet storm in its expanse. This is not a season of dramatic events, yet drama unfolds in the minutiae. A simple meal, shared in silence, becomes charged. A glance across the barn or over the fence becomes a statement. The audience senses that every ordinary action carries emotional significance because restraint, over time, magnifies weight. For Amy, the accumulation of restraint begins to press inward. She notices how long she can hold her emotions at bay before the effort itself starts to hurt. She measures herself, calculates risks, and carefully decides what is safe to reveal. The cost of survival has always been implicit, but now it is unavoidable. She is no longer merely enduring pain. She is weighing the price of connection, the risk of attachment, and the possibility that allowing herself to feel could undo the carefully constructed calm. Jack observes these changes with patience forged by experience. He recognizes the signs, the quiet hesitation, the measured movements, the eyes that linger too long or avert too quickly. He knows that what Amy carries cannot be fixed with advice or action. It requires recognition, empathy, and time. Yet his presence alone becomes a stabilizing force. Lou too begins to feel the subtle consequences of prolonged endurance. Her leadership, once a source of pride, now feels like a series of compromises. Holding everything together requires sacrificing parts of herself, and she notices the spaces where fatigue seeps in. Decisions are no longer effortless. They are deliberate, calculated, and burdened with awareness of what is at stake. Every interaction becomes a careful negotiation between honesty and protection. The suspense of this season emerges from these invisible pressures. There is no singular catastrophe. Instead, tension grows like a quiet current beneath the surface. Each unspoken thought, every withheld confession, and every moment of emotional restraint contributes to the sense that the calm is temporary, fragile, and deceptive. Characters move through life carrying invisible weights: grief unspoken, fear unacknowledged, love restrained, longing measured. These pressures accumulate, pressing outward in subtle ways: a sharper tone in a conversation, a lingering look, a hesitation before an embrace, or a decision made out of caution rather than desire. Season 20 emphasizes that these small human moments are the true crucibles of drama. Amy's struggle is internal, complex, and deeply relatable. The audience feels the tension between her desire to connect and the fear that connection will bring harm. She is caught between survival and vulnerability, between strength and the risk of losing herself. Jack's quiet observations heighten this tension, and Lou's internal balancing act adds another layer of suspense. The ranch, as a living environment, reinforces the stakes. Each corner, each familiar path, reflects memory and responsibility. Even the smallest tasks, feeding animals, mending fences, organizing the barn, carry emotional weight. Season 20 is deliberate in its storytelling. It allows silence to speak, restraint to build suspense, and ordinary moments to reveal extraordinary tension. Nothing explodes, nothing shatters in a single instant. Instead, suspense arises from anticipation, from the audience understanding that the calm is temporary and that the emotional equilibrium maintained for years may soon be tested. The storm is quiet, invisible, but persistent. It builds beneath smiles, beneath careful movements, beneath every word left unsaid. By the end of this section, it is clear that endurance has a cost. Strength has allowed the Heartland family to survive, but it has also isolated them, made their interactions cautious, and turned ordinary life into a subtle battlefield of restraint. The audience feels the pressure growing with every paragraph, every pause, every glance. Season 20 doesn't rush resolution. It lets tension simmer, letting characters and audience alike sit with the weight of survival, the fragility of calm, and the inevitability of vulnerability approaching. Amy, Jack, Lou, and the entire ranch exist in a delicate balance now. Strength keeps them upright, but it cannot shield them forever. The quiet storm has moved closer. The calm is no longer distant. Emotional reckoning waits just beyond the horizon, contained, silent, and inexorably drawing nearer. There comes a point when silence no longer feels protective. It begins to feel heavy. At Heartland, that shift is subtle but undeniable. The pauses between conversations grow longer. The space between people feels wider, even when they are standing side by side. No one has argued. No one has confessed anything dramatic. Yet something has changed. The quiet that once brought comfort now carries tension. Amy feels it first in the smallest ways. A moment when she almost says something honest, then stops. A second where she considers reaching out, then pulls back. These decisions are so quick, they are nearly invisible, but they repeat often enough to leave a mark. She tells herself she is being careful. She tells herself she has learned from the past. But deep down, a question begins to form, one she cannot ignore forever. Is she protecting her heart, or is she slowly closing it? Her strength has always been admired. It has defined her. Through loss, through heartbreak, through responsibility, she endured. But endurance is not the same as healing. Season 20 begins to expose that difference. Amy notices how tired she feels, not physically, but emotionally, tired of measuring her words, tired of holding back instinct, tired of pretending that careful distance equals peace. There is a quiet ache in that realization. Jack senses the shift before anyone names it. He has lived long enough to recognize when strength turns into isolation. He watches Amy with the steady patience of someone who understands timing. He does not confront her. He does not push. Instead, he remains present. His silence is not empty. It is full of awareness. He knows that forcing honesty can cause damage, but waiting too long can do the same. That balance weighs on him. Lou, meanwhile, begins to feel the pressure from a different direction. Leadership has always required confidence, but now confidence feels manufactured. She finds herself second-guessing decisions she once would have made without hesitation. Not because she lacks ability, but because the emotional cost feels higher. Every choice affects someone she loves. Every decision carries unseen consequences. The weight of being dependable starts to feel isolating. There are moments when Lou almost admits she is overwhelmed. The words rise, then disappear. She tells herself it is temporary. She tells herself she just needs to push through. But the audience sees what she cannot fully acknowledge yet. Pushing through is no longer enough. Across the ranch, interactions feel slightly misaligned. Conversations are polite, but incomplete. People talk around their feelings instead of through them. A simple exchange can carry hidden meaning. A look held too long can reveal more than a confession. Season 20 uses these subtle shifts to build suspense. The tension does not explode outward. It tightens inward. Amy becomes more aware of how much energy it takes to stay composed. When she is alone, the effort shows. The stillness feels louder. Thoughts she has avoided begin to surface. She remembers what it felt like to trust without calculation, to love without rehearsing every possible outcome. That memory is both comforting and terrifying. Because love, for Amy now, feels like stepping onto uncertain ground. She knows the cost of losing someone. She knows how deeply attachment can wound. But she is also beginning to understand the cost of avoiding attachment entirely. Safety has protected her from pain, but it has also kept her distant from joy. This realization does not lead to immediate action. Instead, it creates tension. The audience feels that she is standing at a threshold. One step forward means vulnerability, one step back means isolation. Neither option is easy. Jack's role becomes quietly pivotal here. He begins to choose his words more carefully, not to avoid truth, but to allow space for it. There is wisdom in his restraint. He understands that Amy must reach her own conclusion, but he also knows that silence, if stretched too far, can become a wall instead of a bridge. Lou faces a similar crossroads. She starts to notice that her attempts to control outcomes are creating distance. The more she tries to keep everything stable, the more fragile it feels. Control, she realizes, cannot guarantee safety. It can only delay discomfort. The ranch itself reflects this tension. Familiar routines continue, but they feel suspended, as if waiting. The wind across the fields carries a stillness that feels almost expectant. The land remains steady, but the people upon it feel unsettled. Season 20 makes it clear that the coming shift will not be loud. It will not arrive with chaos. It will arrive with honesty. And honesty, after so much restraint, will feel almost disruptive. By the end of this section, the quiet storm is no longer distant. It is present in every unfinished sentence, in every look exchanged without explanation, in every emotion carefully contained. Amy is closer than ever to confronting what she has been avoiding. Jack is aware that the moment of truth is approaching. Lou is beginning to question whether strength without vulnerability is sustainable. Nothing has broken yet, but the silence is beginning to crack. The shift does not begin with an argument. It begins with a moment that feels almost ordinary. A pause that lasts too long, a look that does not turn away, a sentence that is finally allowed to finish. At Heartland, honesty does not arrive loudly. It arrives carefully, almost reluctantly, as if unsure whether it is welcome. And at Heartland, living honestly is the bravest choice of all.